Good morning, good afternoon. We are getting started very soon. Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our second session on the Green Index 3.0, a training series organized by the European Microfinance Platform and the Green Inclusive and Climate Smart Finance Action Group. And my name is Natalia Realpe Carrillo, Director of HEDERA Sustainable Solutions and lead expert for the Green Inclusive and Climate Smart Finance Action Group. Thank you very much for joining today, the second session. Good morning to all that are participating in the chat. Now that you have joined, let us know from where are you coming, from which institution, from which country, and also if you have participated in the previous session. With me are also Fernando Naranjo and Ligia Castro from the e-MFP and the Action Group, and they will support us also during this session. If you have any questions or interest of specific topics or previous questions from the case studies, don't hesitate to let us know. Is anybody attending for the first time on this training series? Anyone? First time, yeah. Welcome, Giselle, and welcome, Fanny. For those of participating first time, is it also as well first time that you're here about the Green Index 3.0? As you see here in this series of training, we will have 4 sessions. So we had the last one from last week. We have already the recording and presentation. So those that are joining for the first time, e-MFP can share with you the recording and as well the presentation so that you can revise it on your own. And next sessions will be, this is a weekly training. So next session will be next Tuesday, May 20th, and the last one, May 27th. For the English, I will be delivering these first 2, and then the next 2 will be delivered by Davide Forcella, and I will be doing all the sessions in Spanish. Okay. For each time, you have to register. So because it's not the same link, so just keep in mind after this session is over, please register to your next one. So what's the objective of today's session? We are discussing, or the aim of this training series is to give you an overview of how the tool works, what is it about, what are the dimensions about. We have already covered its first dimension on the definition and implementation of the environmental strategy. And today we will have a first understanding on the standard Green Index 3.1, that is identification of environmental risks and opportunities of this Green Index, and what are the best or related best practices based on case studies from around the world. As well, for the financial institutions that are joining, as you can, you have the opportunity also to fill out the tool that I mentioned, this dimension, its second dimension. And then once we conclude all the training series, you will receive a report with your results and also compare to the benchmark or average with all the participating institutions. So this is an opportunity for you also to get your own assessment, identify what are the gaps, and reflect on which ones will require action. I see we have participants from Uganda, from Kenya, India, Jordan, Bangladesh, from the Philippines, Cameroon, Ghana, Very good. From France and Luxembourg, to all of you, welcome. And I hope also this is an opportunity for you to network and connect also with your peers. The agenda today, we will have first an introduction on what is green inclusive finance and the Green Index 3.0. I will go a little bit faster than last week because for you, now we have discussed already very much in detail. But for the ones that are joining us for the first time, for you will be, it's important to have a look what are the terminology, the concepts that we will be working on. As well, we will be discussing good practices and revise 4 case studies that we have gathered in the project of the Green Map and that are available for all the public in different languages, in English, French, and Spanish. And then we will revise as well the tool. We are going to do it together, going into the tool, revise the dimension 1, and as well see the differences between the tool for management and the tool for the loan officers if we have some time then by the end. So let's get started. And I see, okay, most of you are already the second time. So I'll be brief in this first introduction, and please don't hesitate also if you have questions, if there is still something to clarify, let me know. The Green Inclusive and Climate Smart Finance Action Group is hosted at the e-MFP. It's a unique multi-stakeholder think tank. You're welcome to join us if you are not yet part of the group to receive all the notifications, news, and invitations that we have. And this group has been launched in February 2013, already with 15 years of experience, gathering more than 75 institutions with over 130 individual members. Since its beginnings, our interest was to discuss what are the current challenges and developing strategies, engage more stakeholders, improve the knowledge, and develop tools such as the Green Index, now in its third edition, and enhance this cooperation, develop dedicated tools, publish and disseminate findings, and develop materials that are useful for the whole sector. You have here in the chat the link to the action group and all can explore, and I will invite you to explore all the resources, especially the online library, the Green Index resources, the previous webinars and trainings, recordings and presentations that will give you a lot of material for inspiration of your own institution. Last week, we were discussing a lot on these 3 concepts on how are we defining green inclusive finance. As you may know, it has been in these 15 years, we have had an evolution of the topic on what is green microfinance or green inclusive finance, how are we incorporating climate smart solutions, and now resilience, climate adaptation, not only focusing on climate adaptation, but here the focus is not only on what are those objectives in relation to climate and to environment, but rather on focusing on the clients and on the institution. We want to decrease the vulnerability of the clients and of the institution, the adverse impacts, and enhance the economic opportunities. So how clients and institutions are affected by the environment in regards to vulnerability. On adverse impacts is how clients and institutions are affecting the environment with its own work or activities. And economic opportunities is how these green loans or non-financial services or opportunities for the institutions can satisfy a demand and increase revenues. So far here, please, any question, any objection? Will you complement these concepts with others that you are working on from your institutions? And for those that is the first time, is it clear? these concepts? Anyone? Thumbs up? A yes? All good? Okay. So these concepts are, when we have all these concepts together, green inclusive finance for us sits in this nexus between the resilience generation, the ecosystems conservation, the generation of better and more resources for partially excluded population and also enterprises. And we're talking about indirect and direct activities or impact. Indirect when we're talking about the clients, and direct when we're talking about the institution and its human resources. So after we had all these concepts clear, and especially the definition of green inclusive finance as those services, products, and activities that a financial institution is implementing based on a strategy and evaluation of its risks, and then an offer that is translating those risks for them. We have the green index, and we have designed the green index in order to evaluate what is that environmental performance of the institution and guide them in order to take action on an organized action along the different dimensions to raise awareness internally on what is important and relevant for them, to enhance the commitment so that once you have a strategy, you are committing to specific actions, and then help as well in the planning, prioritizing, and monitoring the progress. As a tool, so as a survey, a very detailed survey, it is to be conducted at the institutional level only once. It's only one survey, not for the different departments. It's just one per institution that we suggest to conduct at least once a year. And we have two versions for loan officers and also for management. From e-MFP, you are receiving here the links. You can explore them now while I talk, but as well, I will try to leave some minutes by the end so that we can go together through the tools. This green index, as a work from e-MFP, we have worked together also with cities and SPTF in order at the very beginning to have the green index as an optional voluntary tool that could be filled out in the SPI before the relaunching or the update of the universal standards. It was optional, and then since 2021 now, it is part of the universal standards for social and environmental performance management that it's brought in the 7th dimension and environmental performance management. And we have made sure in this collaboration that once you fill the Green Index 3.0, it is also filling out the dimension 7. So you will see some questions that are directly from that are included already in dimension 7. And the dimension 7 has as well these 3 dimensions that are reflecting the same 4 that we have at the Green Index. So how does this look more in detail? The 4 dimensions are the first one on environmental strategy, the second one on the identification of environmental risk and opportunities, the third one on management of environmental risk and opportunities, and the fourth one on the green products and services. The dimension 7 has these 2 combined, identification and management of environmental risk and opportunities, but we have the same structure in terms of the essential practices that then are assessed in between. Also, in regard to the differences in the dimension 7, all the activities are answered yes, no, partially, with the possibility as well to leave some comments, upload documents, or having the audit of the documentation that reflect those actions. While on the green index, all these indicators are asking more on the what is the microfinance institution doing, and then with which specific objective and with quantitative indicators. But not for institutions, you must note that these are aligned, and also the aligners tool has also been extracted from the Green Index and Dimension set. So that in terms of the alignment of the tools, and now on the details. So for those revising it for the first time, this, just to explain to you, these are the 4 dimensions. We have 2 essential practices. For each of the essential practices, we have specific indicators. For instance, in the definition of the strategy that was what we revised last week, we have indicators assessing if the institution has detailed goals, mission, a documented strategy, if the institution is complying with applicable standards and regulation, in the implementation of the strategy, whether how are the responsibilities and processes within the institution, how is the management and governance, and if the institution is conducting and monitoring economic opportunities, the vulnerability and the negative environmental impacts of the institution and also of the clients. Then today we're going to focus on the identification of environmental risk and opportunities. And you will see here that essential practices are divided by having a look first at the identification of indirect risk and opportunities. That means of the clients. So if the institution is assessing the vulnerability, the negative environmental impacts, and the demand and needs. And then we're going to have a look on how is the institution identifying their direct risk and opportunities in regards to its built headquarters, branches and staff, and as well how is the identification of opportunities for the institution to engage in green. And next week, we're going to revise management of environmental risk and opportunities, and then we are going to finalize with the green products and services. So far here, if you don't have any questions on the different dimensions, we can already start with the best practices and with some discussion that we had a very good experience last time. So far, let me know any questions, comments. For those that it's first time, is all clear? Faid? Fanny, for all of you, all good? Giselle, thank you. Okay. Very good, thank you. So we're going to continue now with the best and good, or we can call them good practices. Now we can say it's not that there is only one practice, but several practices we are gathering. We have research with different institutions, and in the Green Map, a project that we have conducted in 2023, we had developed this tool in order to collect and reflect on what our institutions doing in green. Here we have, if you explore the tool, you can also access it. I think e-MFP will share it with you. You will have access to seeing what are the different projects where different stakeholders or multi-stakeholders projects have worked in green, as well as what are institutions doing in green inclusive finance. The indicators that you have there and the detail of information, it is not a Green Index 3.0 assessment. This is important for you to know, as I have received some questions on that, but it's only about reflecting on what are experiences from the institutions and how have they approached green inclusive finance. We all know, and I see here participants from all around the world, that your interests, your objectives, your concerns, the risks that you are managing are all different. And how are you starting in this journey is also from different motivations, different support, different approaches, and this is what we wanted to reflect also with the case studies. So I invite you also to revise the tool, perhaps after after the training, so I have your attention here on what we're going to discuss today. The 4 cases that we're going to see are from Colombia, from Banca Mia, Comuba from Benin, Cagmo from Ecuador, and then Wilcom from Jordan. And the first 2 on how are they identifying the indirect risk and opportunities of their clients. And in regards to Ecuador and Jordan, we're going to see what are they doing within their institutions. As well, besides the case studies, we have other resources that some of you have already explored in detail and even used with your own partners, that are the training, the modules, the detailed modules that we have also available in the different languages with the recordings. And we have 2 of them dedicated for the identification of risk and opportunities. In the presentation, you will have the links also in the chat, as well some materials to explore later after the training. So my favorite part, and is here the discussion. What does it mean for you identifying risk and opportunities? And if you can differentiate between direct and indirect risk and opportunities. As last time, brainstorming first words, key concepts, or if you want a full paragraph, share it also in the chat, and then we reflect on your entries. What does it mean to you identify risk and opportunities? I see here also partners that have already supported institutions in that identification of risks. So if you can share also approaches, methodologies, if it worked well. Thank you, Caroline. We will. I think there was an update on the website from e-MFP. Perhaps that could be the reason. What does it mean for you identifying risk or identifying opportunities? So while we revise the links, if you can share with us about your experiences, your opinions on from identify negative outcomes or positive in regards to opportunities. Yes, very good. Identification of risk could mean how environmental or climate could potentially harm the outcomes of your business. Yes, that's at the institutional level. It's about understanding the environment you're operating in. Yes. So in terms of how it is affecting different parts like operations, infrastructure, activities, risk will be any potential hindrance, while opportunities will be possibilities to pursue. Yes, possibility of projects, for instance. Indicators in place to measure the impact the services and products may cause. Yes, very good that the services also in regards to the institution, that there are direct and indirect risks. Yes, when we are talking here about direct and indirect risk, that there are risk for the clients and risk for the institutions. This is what you mean, Caroline? Think about the different categories of risk and opportunities, financial or reputational. So you're talking about the climate transition risks, Yana. Identify factors that are detrimental to the operations of both institutions and its clients. So external factors. That will be, Alan, is it about the external factors or could be also within the institution? Direct could be its impact on our direct operations, or indirect on our value chain. Yes, okay, that's also an overview, Yasser, of the indirect risks. Indirect risk for the FSP or for the clients, indeed, says Caroline. But yeah, all right. And identification of risk and opportunities is making us being proactive rather than reactive in a situation. I like that approach, Karen, about preparing ourselves or being proactive in understanding how can I react better in advance rather than after a disaster or a problem appears, than to how to react then to the situation. So it's about preparedness to understand possibilities we are in and properly address it, aligning our vision, missions, and goal of the corporation and organization. Oh, that's another interesting point. So Giselle is saying it's this preparedness, we have to be aligned to what is important for us, so that in our preparedness or the indicators that we are going to follow, they reflect our mission, vision, and goals. Like it very much. Diana is clarifying reputational risk for the FSPs. And here in the reputational risk, are you also referring like to climate transition risk, reputational risk, or reputational in terms of what are you changing in order to address green? If you can specify on that, Diana. And Nana, risk and opportunities, being aware and navigating the changing seasons of the journey of the institution. Yes, so we are in changing seasons, and how to prepare the institution and the journey of the activities, proactively uncovering potential threats that could derail goals and recognizing advantages that can drive success. It enables smarter decisions, strategic planning, and a competitive edge. Good, Rayana. I think so. So here, the advantages will be like the opportunities, and the threats will be the risks. And here, strategic planning and having a competitive edge. I think here, I'm talking about competitiveness is also a new term that we're incorporating. And it means identifying those internal and external factors that can positively or negatively affect a desired plan or outcomes. Very good, Benson. So from the answers that you have read also in the chat, has someone changed its concept, its own reflection of what did you feel that was identification of risk and management, of risk and opportunities? Joseph, very good. So identifying potential vulnerabilities in the environment, but vulnerabilities in the environment, what you mean risks of the environment? Vulnerabilities is of the clients or of the institution? In this case, no, we're looking at vulnerabilities of the, yes, okay. Joseph clarifies. So you see that for me, it's interesting to see how everyone is addressing identification of risks in risk management at the financial, in microfinance sector. We're always talking about, like the risks in portfolio risks, and how are we assessing, and the credit scoring. But here, when we think about risk in terms of what are the vulnerabilities of our clients, what is the vulnerability of the institution, what are we doing that is affecting the environment, or what are we financing that is affecting the environment, you're changing the perspective of how you are addressing risks. So this dimension is about evaluating what is the institution's ability to identify the vulnerability of the clients and portfolio, the negative environmental impact generated on ecosystems by the clients, and the institution itself, and the client's needs and demand for green practices and technologies, as well as opportunities for the institution itself. So in this identification is about what are we doing in order to understand, to see, to discover those risks. And we're doing this at the client level and also at the institutional level. We're going to see with which tools are we doing this. Are we generating the capacities or developing the skills within the institution? And then if there are partnerships in place in order to do that, and how are the institution evaluating this or conducting this within the institution? So the two essential practices, identification of indirect risk and opportunities, and identification of direct risks and opportunities. Here, let's take out about the concept of value chain. This is not about, so when we're talking about indirect, it's not about the value chain, but indirect in regards to the clients, okay? Just to make concrete that aspect. And now if you want to define those essential practices, is the institution identifies client or portfolio level opportunity, environmental risk and opportunities, and the institution identifies its own environmental risk at headquarters and branch level and its own environmental opportunities. So once this is clear, now let's go like to put this more into terms. Let's revise what are those indicators that we're talking about. So once you open the tool, and if you have it with you, I will try to also sharing both screens if possible. I will stop sharing and share again. Stop. Or here. Okay, you see my screen? Both?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
Now, yes.
Yes, you see two, both of them, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I have here the tool, the Green Index 3.0. I mentioned to you that we have two versions, for management and for field officers. And then for management has the 4 dimension, for field officers is summarized and with all the questions in terms of strategy, regulations, and laws removed. But here what we are going to see in this training, where we have separated all these dimensions in different sections so that it's easier for you to follow, to fill out, and as well to revise in detail. So we start here with the first, wait, just. Okay, let's see. Yes. Okay, we start here with the standard one. Yeah, I'm revising it just with dummy answers at the beginning. For the FSPs, please provide your information for your report. And what we are showing here is what are those indicators that we are assessing and per standard. You see here the essential practice, the first one, and you will have a look as well. The 2 essential practices, you will navigate, you can here navigate in the menu on the first essential practice and the second one. We start with this first one, yeah? The institution identifies client or portfolio level environmental risk and opportunities. So what are we doing here? The institution identifies vulnerability at client or portfolio level to climate change. The institution trains its loan officers and back office. The institution has partnerships with technical or technology providers. The institution identifies adverse environmental impacts at client level or portfolio level. The institution trains its loan officers and back office staff on how to identify, evaluate, and categorize client level, portfolio level adverse environmental impacts, and the institution has partnerships with technical or technologies providers to evaluate client portfolio level adverse environmental impacts. So as you see, we are evaluating first about the capacity of the institution to identify vulnerabilities, the capacity of the institution to identify adverse environmental impacts, and then here the institution conducts market research and it identifies demands and needs for green practices and technologies. So we're talking about what are the needs of the clients and also opportunities. The institution identifies needs or demands of each client to access to affordable, reliable, and clean energy, clean water, sanitation, increased productivity, quality of production, or revenues. The institution trains its loan officers and back staff office on the identification, evaluation, and categorization of clients and clusters of clients' needs and demands for green practices and technologies. The institution has partnerships with technical or technologies providers to evaluate client needs or demand for green practices and technologies. So as you see from the indicators, it's about what actions are you doing? Are you developing the skills? Are you using tools? Are you doing this in partnerships? And what are you doing in terms of vulnerability assessment, adverse impacts, and economic opportunities identification? And here you have the quantitative indicators that in the tool will appear then in between the questions and highlighted like in another color. So far, any question on the indicators themselves? Any questions, comments? Are all clear? The indicators, will be this easy for you to fill out or to guide the institutions that you work with, your partners, your clients, for the consultants? Is it clear for you? Do you think this is feasible? All clear, Kate? Good. Okay. So if no questions, all clear, and you're exploring the tool, we can start with the first case on Banca Mia. We have one question. What kind of training is provided to loan officers and back office staff on identifying and evaluating clients' needs for green technologies? That's a good question, Rayana. We have, so there are different approaches. Whether, let's start with an institution that is interested in understanding what is the institution financing. And training could be like to reflect, to do, the simplest one will be to gather loan officers and receive feedback on what are they financing in terms of green technologies. Have they received any demand, or have they seen in their areas where they are visiting or working with clients, have they seen machinery or climate smart practices that they have identified needs for their clients on these topics. If the institution is conducting a needs assessment and approaches from experiences that we have had from HEDERA, where we provide the tools for the institution to do the data collection. We use ODK Collect. We train the loan officers to do the data collection and the needs assessment at the household level or the micro enterprises. And then this training is to show them the tools and say, no, with these questions, we are going to understand what are those clients' needs for the green technologies. And this type of training helps them to see how to assess whether there is electricity supply, whether how are their cooking solutions, how is productive use of electricity is being done within, now what are they using at the household level. As well, with the Green Index 3.0, and for the section of the loan officers, where we are analyzing what are the loan officers financing. Providing them the training on how to use that tool could be a first step before doing a needs assessment and seeing what are the details of loan officers' feedback on what are they financing. So that could be the type of training for them to do. And then, Rayana, it's clear on that? On the question of partnership, you're welcome. For BIRASA, the question of partnership, whom do you classify as partners? Can it be public, private, and NGOs? Yes, can be all of them. We will see, we have seen institutions already working with private companies, whether suppliers of improved cook stoves or electric motorbikes or biodigesters or even NGOs, Nicaragua, for instance, supporting their financial institutions in order to provide the technical assistance for the farmers and guide them on better practices or climate smart practices for the clients. Or if it's public, if an institution can partner with public programs like Sembrando Vida in Mexico, or public programs where there is an approach of how to encourage sustainability within in rural areas, or addressing a program to facilitate access to clean energy, as in Yemen, then NGOs or microfinance institutions can do this partnership and help have this approach for the identification of needs and then delivery of the products or services. So BIRASA, here there is no restriction of the kind of type of partners. Okay. So we will see, actually we will see now here a type of partnership with public, actor, and it's the first one that it's from Banca Mia. So Banca Mia is a microfinance institution. Let me see here. The year of foundation is when was the institution founded. So since when is operating the institution and registered. Banca Mia is a microfinance institution in Colombia as part of the BBVA foundation from Spain. In this case study, we have reflected and discussed with the institution on what are they doing in terms of green. Banca Mia has been very proactive and pioneer in the country. They have implemented as well Ecomicro, and what they wanted to share within the green map is, or where we focused on was on how are they identifying indirect risks and opportunities. Banca Mia identifies geographical areas exposed to climate threats, for instance, droughts, floods, or landslides, or avalanches, and they have data from the National Modeling Center in Colombia. So in this case, BIRASA, this is a public entity where who gathers data, and this data is used by the institution in order to see the different climate risks across the country. So Banca Mia works. We have. I'm Colombian. We have different. We have a very diverse areas due to the mountain chain that cross the country, and that detailed information by region is very useful for the institution. The vulnerability maps allow the institution to understand what is the reality of the clients in terms of the climate change impacts, and they have an index of past due portfolio caused by the effects of climate change. This, not with the information that they have, they create this type of vulnerability maps of their clients in terms of slides or potential slots or electric storms or fires. And with this information on the location of the bank's clients and the offices in the departments with high level of impact due to climate change. So this is informed also within the staff. And the climate alerts, identification of the level of portfolio risk due to climate change and design mitigation, and or adaptation of strategies tailored to the needs of clients. So they make sure to use that data in order on how to approach the clients and the activities of the institution. They have a communication of agroclimatic alerts issued by the National Association of Coffee Growers. That's also a public entity in Colombia. And these alerts are then given as well to the clients. CENICAFE, a repository and research center, provides recommendations for the farmers on good agricultural practices and technical support suggestions for the smallholder farmers' productive activity are sent to the farmer's cell phone. So this is how they are managing data and then being intermediary between CENICAFE and then also their clients to ensure that they are following those recommendations, or at least that they ensure that they are receiving the information, not if they are following. And then lastly, we have the definition of the percentage of clients vulnerable to climate change, including at least 2 levels of exposure to risk by department and geographic location, categorization of clients according to their level of vulnerability, and where clients are more vulnerable, training workshops are organized for both clients and the staff. So these are the type of tables that they produce here that to translate level of how are they affected, the level of how they are affected with floods, with heavy rains, floods or droughts, and the percentage of possibly affected clients. This is what they calculate. And we see numbers from 20% up to 46, 47%, which are very high. So this type of information, then it is important then for the institution and then also for the clients to follow specific recommendations. This is the case from Banca Mia. Now we're going for the case to Benin, but before we continue, do you have any reflection, or would you see this possible within the institution or with the institutions that you work with to develop this type of partnerships with public entities in order to gather information that is key for the different sectors that you are financing? Any reflection on the case of Banca Mia? Let's use this opportunity to discuss the cases instead of just better to discuss than to read by yourself alone. Is it straightforward? Do you see an advantage that there is an intermediary, like a bank, in between the data and the clients? What will you do different? Like, okay, the question, what will you do different? Or what will you say, yeah, I will copy this model? Let's be critical. Partnership for the integration of meta information in the banking information system and visualization to facilitate loan officer in the assessment. No. So, okay, Sylvie, this is a good point. This is not facilitating the loan officer in the assessment. It is giving the information, but it's only to identify who has risk. But then it is not, this information is not in the assessment of whether I will give the loan or not. Okay? We will see this case, Sylvie, is from we will see this case, but in another MFI. Rayana, include variables like income level, business type, gender, and financial resilience to improve targeting. Yeah, this is a good recommendation for Banca Mia, for instance, not that this type of mapping. So once they receive mapping data from the from these entities, that they could also combine other types of data, and then if they have also further data from income level, business types of potential clients, that they could use that data to improve the targeting. I think this is a great recommendation then for Banca Mia. How frequent should an institution identify indirect risk and opportunities? Hey, let's open this question to everyone. How frequent should an institution identify indirect risk and opportunities? To everyone, let's have this question. Once a year, continuously, twice a year, every quarter, every 5 years. Opinions, continuously, Usman. Okay, Keith, we are not weather experts, so we need partnerships to have access to weather data for our own portfolio level credit risk management and to share with clients for their planning and farm level actions. It's true, so institutions are not experts, so it's good to have the partnerships, to have the data, and to share it with the clients and with the planning. To be critical, I would say, like, why not is arriving this data to the clients? Or what do you think? Why is not reaching out to the clients if these are public entities and they are producing this data for the farmers? So Sylvie, thank you for the I was thinking about vulnerability assessment. Sylvie on the okay. So so Sylvie was not referring about the assessment, loan officer assessment in terms of the loan delivery, but rather on the vulnerability assessment of the clients. Yes, that's the case. And we have so Usmani says that it should be identified continuously. Christine, that identifying the indirect risks can enhance the development of other loan products in mitigation of the risk for institutions. Yes, that's the point. Like, that's the targeting that we want. So those risks can gives information to the institution about what could be loan products or services that they could offer in order to decrease those risks. Joseph suggests twice a year, as well as Diana. Annually looks more realistic and cost effective. Well, Nisi, in this case, we don't know yet what are the costs. I will say that if it's an entity that is receiving constantly satellite data, and this is like this is a constant platform that is providing the data, then we should then ask also as well for the costs. But if we're talking about like collecting data that could be from the field and that it will entail lots of costs, then we should think more about the method. But I will say that annually it's too much. Sylvie, annually, Nisi, I will say that annual risks are too long. Is a lot of time, at least once a year. I will ask like Catherine, working in advance, if it's once a year, will you feel comfortable if you see all these seasons that the institution are working? No, like if you are working with seasons, or if you are working with different crops, and you see the climate is changing in each season, and you need to understand what are those risks that are happening for the different crops. When you need to understand what are those risks for them. Be annually or after major climate events and with every major strategy cycle, or depends on the level of impact of the risk. Yeah, okay, Fanny is addressing, let's see what are the different risks. what could be the level of impact, and then seeing how often should we do this identification. And Usman clarifies that he says continuously because the institution's portfolio lies here. So it's best to keep ourselves abreast of this information. For farmers, we follow monthly. So you have here information from someone that is already doing this identification of risks. Monthly evaluations, gathering information from the clients and saying, what are those risks that you are facing? Or in each of the branches, if you have, like if you already know what are the different possible risks, encourage as as continuous as possible to have updated risk assessment. Each of the institutions, they have their risk monitor. There are like these monthly meetings where you revise all the risk. Include one line in your Excel, or at least several lines on there about the climate risks or environmental risks that you perceive, and do this exercise as often as possible, because this will give you then an overview. And overall climate risk assessment for the full portfolio, then from Advanced, they are doing this twice. So Giselle, yes, during the monthly meetings. So you in your institutions or with your partners, see how are you revising your risks, what is possible to collect from the different branches in terms of information on what are perceptions of risk, or feedback from the loan officers, from the clients as well, and integrate that data, that it goes up into your strategy meetings. And if you have possibility to partner with this type of institutions, then you have here very good approaches in how this could be continuous data that could fit your working relationship then with your client and your portfolio. But I think it is a good discussion then to have, and we will see the practices on the management of those risks that we will see next week, on the management of the risk and how often to do this. Now we're going to continue with identification of indirect risk and opportunities, the practices from Komuba, Benin. Komuba identifies the clients and portfolio vulnerability to risk linked to climate change. So it's, for instance, water scarcity and the storage, handling, inappropriate use of hazardous chemicals, including pesticides and fertilizers, using the UNEP, United Nations Environmental Programme, the MEBA, the Microfinance Ecosystems-Based Adaptation Indicators, that provide a list of more than 40 climate smart practices, and based on these practices, these are given to Komuba in a software where they can identify what are those risks related to low rainfall and poor pesticide handling, and then give as well recommendations for the clients. Adaptation of the credit manual, as well as digitization of Komuba's credit process and the interconnection of branches with the head office. And this, you're welcome for participation, Catherine. Hope you can also participate next one and comment on the management of those climate risks with your institutions. And how is Komuba doing this with the portfolio risk mapping, including environmental risk and a risk management manual? They are working with Yapo solutions, and each loan application is subject to an assessment of the customer's exposure to social and environmental risks. And here is the case that Sylvie, I think that we were discussing from the previous case, whether those identification of risks will be decisive then in the delivery of the loan. What could be here some risks, or what will you think about this approach of integrating already climate vulnerability assessment in your loan in the loan delivery. How are you identifying them? If this could be possible for you within your, within your loan disbursement. Any questions here? Any questions? Do you do that? Any of you do that to identify or to know what is exposure to climate change and then consider this in the loan delivery, in the loan disbursement assessment? Are you able to collect data on the vulnerability of risks, vulnerability to risk of clients while you are assessing in first approach to the clients? From Christine, yes, we do seasonality analysis in every loan appraisal conducted. Christine, can you remind us from in which country are you? In Uganda. Very good. So as you see, this is possible to do, and this, I guess, also by the different sectors. And this is a good practice that you can implement in order to have an overview of the risk that you have for each of the loans. Key here for the institutions is to understand what type of sectors are you attending in each of the sector, what could be possible risks if there is use of pesticides, or if rain can affect or not the productivity, if there is water, if it's water used within the activity or the commercial activity of the client, if it is storage needed or chemicals used. And this type of understanding of what are your clients doing, then you can integrate also further data to understand and to identify those indirect risks that you have. I see that from Kamuba, you don't have any questions and it's clear, or any comment. So we can continue with the next essential practice, that is the identification of the direct risks and opportunities and good practices at the institution level. Last chance to comment about Kamuba in Benin. Anyone? If not, we continue with the next one. All good. Yes. Okay. Let's continue with the next one. Identification of direct risk and opportunities. You still have the tool open? No. I will share again the tool and we can combine. Okay, here we have the tool. So we continued, we already revised the indicators for the essential practice, the first one. How is an institution identifying vulnerabilities? Now we're continuing. Oh, all of the indicators are required to fill out. So we continue, like we are going to navigate like this. The second essential practice, the institution identifies its own environmental risk and its own environmental opportunities. If you don't do anything, then you just click no. But if you do any of these ones, then you click and check what are you doing. The institution is assessing its own vulnerability to weather threats, climate change, energy poverty, lack of reduced access to clean water, to sanitation supply, or to poor waste management, to health diseases due to indoor air pollution or other, and you can specify. And if you're doing this, are you doing at the headquarters, properties, buildings, or branches, or your human resources? And what are you doing with the methodology and indicators specified in a local regulation or standards, or methodology and indicators specified in an international regulation or standards? And please specify which one. Yeah. So if we come back, if you can revise here, what are those indicators? You will have also the quantitative indicators. What are you tracking at the institution level in terms of energy, like the electricity consumption, water consumption, paper, fuels, CO2 emissions, the percentage of emissions offset, non-hazardous waste, waste disposal, share of insurance against climate change compared to the overall expenses, cost of green energy compared to the classic energy during last year. How is the institution training, assessing its own opportunities? And then if you want to give further comments. Now go back on the how to sharing. And here we continue on the indicators. So on the tool, as you see, you go like question by question, then the quantitative indicators are in between. And here we have, how is the institution assessing its own vulnerability? How is the institution assessing the adverse impact? How is the institution training the loan officers and back office staff on the assessment? How is the institution assessing its own opportunities to develop and implement an environmental strategy, an environmental or climate risk management, or green products and services? And here we covered the three of them: vulnerabilities, adverse impacts, and economic opportunities. Do you have any questions on the indicators? Are these indicators, are these indicators something that you capture within your institutions, or your partners are doing this? Do you think it's possible? I've seen institutions that are doing this. Anyone? Yes, it's possible. Yes, you have this. These are actually, you have all of this because these are costs already that you have an institution, operational costs. How to encourage an environmental sustainable approach. Let's just decrease those costs. It is necessary for quality loans and low credit risk. You mean the identification? Wait, Christine, now I lost you, or I'm lost. Yes, it is necessary for quality loans and low credit risk. But here we're talking about what is the institution doing at its premises, at the headquarters, at the branches. So here we are not revising the loans. Or do you mean that these activities are important in order to have a good offer for the clients? Okay, yes. Yeah, if we reach an institution that it's conscious, that has low operation costs, that it's more sustainable, and with trained staff, with especially looking at opportunities where they could conduct then projects for their clients, then they can enhance the quality also of their services. Okay, good point. Anyone, any other else? Or we continue with the case of CACMO, and then Tam will come. Let's continue with the cases. Okay. So CACMO is an institution in Ecuador now, and here we will have an example of how they are identifying direct risk and opportunities, and what they shared, and also that you revise and hear from them on a webinar that we had some years ago. They conducted a project that it's called Green CACMO, that it's based and it was focused on the headquarters building of the institution. What they did was to do a restoration process of the building using eco-efficient construction parameters and establishing criteria to reduce energy consumption and water consumption, as well as using recycled materials. They had, I remember the DG certification, minimum 20% reduction in the use of energy, water, and embodied energy in building materials, estimated emissions reduction of 10.12 tons of carbon per year. What they did was to install, so they also did our awareness raising within the cooperatives members and civil society by showcasing the Green CACMO project, saying that investing in sustainable technologies, so installing for themselves the technologies and using of clean energy can generate short and long-term environmental, economic, and social benefits for everyone. So by implementing, predicating with example has bring for them lots of benefits, and this investment has been very beneficial, and also they wanted to be pioneer in the country and an example for all the institutions and especially for the cooperatives. The technical construction solutions implemented in this construction of the greenhouse, Casa Verde, so greenhouse, but it's not a green farmer's greenhouse, but rather how they call the headquarter is they did changes in energy access, so in water, and in the materials. They reduced the window to wall ratio, reflective paint for external walls, energy saving lighting, and solar, and installing solar photovoltaics. In terms of water, they use low flow faucets for the bathrooms, dual flush water closets, water efficient urinals, and a rainwater harvesting system. And in terms of materials, they used composite in situ concrete and steel deck, composite in situ slab for roof construction, reuse of existing internal and external walls, reuse of existing window frames, etc. And economic savings in energy and water consumption of approximately 42% per year. And this action, I think this could be also implemented by several institutions. We have, in terms of green inclusive finance, we have focused too much on the clients, and some institutions have forgotten that as well within their institutions, within their headquarters and branches, and their operation costs are high because of diesel generators that they have to use due to outages or for conducting or for running their operations, or the usage of air conditioner disproportionately or not monitored to save cost can then, now if you have a look or with the myriad of an economic opportunity, if you reduce those costs, you are also reducing the adverse impacts on the environment for the usage of the electricity, or being more conscious about the waste, the paper, the water consumption that you have at your offices. Has any of you within your institutions, have you reflected on this type of resources usage, or do you have campaigns within your institution, or at least have you done the exercise to identify what are those direct risk and opportunities for the institution? Anyone? Do you see this possible Will this be too much? Are you already doing this? Is the example of CACMO a unique one, or have you seen other institutions? It is impressive what they do, but it is so, Usman, we will say this is unique implementation from an institution, but we have seen, for instance, in Syria, in Mali, in Senegal, institutions that are already, or in Egypt, institutions that are already running with solar panels for their operations, saving their cost of fuels, and they, because they do this thinking about the operations and not with the environmental goal. We have not, or they have not been, they have don't realize about this environmental impact that they have, but we see that this is possible and it's not a unique case from Ecuador. Cynthia, yes, we see that it is feasible for the institutions. We have not done some with our partners, but it is possible. Yes, it is possible. Cynthia, from which country are you joining us? From Ghana. Yes, it is possible. Like the implementation of those low flow faucets for bathrooms, or dual flush water closets, or having or even in the plastic usage. We have seen institutions encouraging at least their employees not to use plastic glasses or plastic bags, or to reuse their materials for their within the institutions, so that there is less waste. It are good practices. Rayana comments, CACMO style green building project is absolutely possible in Bangladesh. Yes, and with low cost of solar panels that you have there, is totally possible, with adaptation to local materials, climate and policy conditions. And with collaboration between government, private sector and development partners, Bangladesh can scale such sustainable construction model for long-term environmental and economic benefits. Totally possible and feasible. And in Bangladesh, from Gramin Shakti, has been a reference as well for many institutions, especially at the very beginning of green microfinance. And Rayana, yes, it's possible, but not done yet with our partners. But you see that it's possible. I'm glad that at least we have raised awareness that this is possible. We haven't done any of this, but definitely interesting and seems feasible. Yes, it is. It is very feasible. It's like the first, if you say from 1 to 10 level of complexity, what can I do? What can I do today? What can I do now? Like reflecting on these indicators, on the expenses, on the resources consumption of the institution, is like the no-brain action, and you could do it already today. It is possible, not yet practiced for financial provider. It is possible, very possible. Even if you think about environment, like in being conscious about environment, this is like the first thing that you could think as easiest to do. Even you can encourage this already in your next meetings. So you have homework. And let's finish now with the last case study, that it's Sam Wilcom. And if I don't see you next week, because you will be with Davide, at least make sure, just homework, that you do this reflection on your environmental strategy and identification of risks and opportunities to do this. Not for me, for you, but that this training is then doing some impact at your institution. Let's revise this last one. Identification of direct risk and opportunities, good practices by Tam Wilcom Jordan. So Tam Wilcom, I remember we have a participant from Jordan joining us, Mo Salem, yes. And TAM Wilcom has solar systems in the headquarters and in 18 branches, minimizing emissions through the usage of electric transport and minimizing electricity consumption. Some of the key quantitative impacts of the TAM Wilcom's energy, paper, and fuel expenses are the savings that they have had at headquarters and branches, from over 587,000 kilowatt hours saved at yearly rate, reduction of the volume of paper printed from 6,900 to 900 files because of regulations. Still, they have some limits. They cannot digitize it all. Reduction of fuel consumption at headquarters and branches from 28,800 liters to 12,800 liters. Still, some consumed, but high savings, and development of training on the implementation of the environmental and social assessment policy that they have had at the internal level. So this will be more on the management, the development of the training. Then they have, with this identification of direct risk, they also complemented with identification of indirect risk with categorization of the risk of their clients. But at least this type of implementations is showing us, this is just a unique slide for them, what are they doing in terms of those identification of direct risk and opportunities for the institution. Anyone? Yes, well, this is another example as for you to see that this is possible, but I hope this inspires you as well to see, at least with numbers and with the financials, what will mean sustainable technologies in terms of savings for the operations costs. Well, we have done already the 4 case studies and as well the indicators. Now we can focus on the tools. If you have any questions about TAM Wilcom or reflections or comments, let me know. If not, we can go already and finalize with the tool. Anyone? TAM Wilcom? 1, 2, exactly. A countdown, and we close the case studies today. No questions, all clear? We have already reflected from CACMO. I think will be the same case for TAM Wilcom. It is clear. Thank you, Sylvie. So we finalize with the data collection. So for the financial institutions, as I showed before, and also for consultants, for the MIVs that are joining us today. So we have there is the tool, the digital tool, the Green Index, for those that are looking at it for the first time. The Green Index was before an Excel tool. It was very short, some maximum 12, 15 questions. And in its third version, once we collected feedback from investors, microfinance institutions, consultants, we have received a lot of feedback in terms of other type of actions and activities that the institutions were doing. The tool got so extended and with so much filters that we decided to offer a digital tool where institutions can fill it out, have it in different languages, and do it as well by themselves. This is an open source. This is an open source tool. That means that you have also instructions in order to install the tool in your own server, do the tool by yourselves, and reflect on your results by yourself or alone. Or you can also have the guidance with consultants for the implementation of the Green Index. You have here the digital tool that, as I showed before, it lands you then to a website where you have access to the 2 versions, the questionnaire for management and the questionnaire for field officers. For the institutions that want to have their assessment on the dimension 1, so the identification of risk and opportunities, and receive as well the report by the end of the trainings. Please complete this questionnaire that it's only gathering these 2 essential practices, and indirect risk and opportunities and direct risk and opportunities, and fill it out, put the name of the institution so that we can then combine all that, the 4 databases, and produce your individual report. The here the tool, as now I will late. Once you fill it out, the last one is that you click on submit so that this information arrives. You can fill out the tool offline, and if yeah, offline, so you don't need internet, but once you click submit, then you need internet access. If you are filling it out and you close the window, it will delete the answers. So make sure that you have the window open as long as you are gathering the answers, or gather first the answers and then open the link, and then you complete the full survey. And lastly, if you have any questions, you can, after this session, you can write to us, green@emfp.eu. This is for the Green Inclusive and Climate Smart Finance Action Group Coordinator, Ligia Castro, that is with us. And as well, you can write to me, I'm in CC in the emails, natalia@hedera.online, if you have any question then, or clarification, comments, if you want to share with me that you have received, or you have conducted your actions within your institution and for your clients, thanks to the training, and that will be our greatest result and impact from this training series. So I'll stop sharing here. I'll share again the questionnaire. Sorry, here, yes, the questionnaire entirely, and the different resources. So in the Green Index, on the Green Index link, you have an overview of what is the demo report that you receive once you fill out the tool. It doesn't have a detailed analysis, but rather like the scoring that you have dimension by dimension. Each of these colors, that means that these are the type of, these are the indicators that the institution is already conducting, and you can reflect internally, are we going to dedicate efforts to conduct the other activities? Are these activities aligned to our objectives and main interests and priorities? You don't have to have all the diamond full or all the activities colored, that you are doing all of them, but rather, is this currently important for us? Is this addressing a risk that we have? Is this going to enhance our products and services for our clients? You can also have installed the Green Index in your mobile phone. So if you have ODK Collect, the app in your Android device, you can just scan the QR code, and then you have access to the questionnaire from your mobile phone. And for those that are totally new to the subject, that you want to reflect more on what is green inclusive finance and what are all these new concepts that we are working on, we have a glossary that is also accessible for all. Here we explain about the alignment between the Green Index and the Dimension 7, also the different modalities that we have, the Green Index in full mode or the light version, that is mapping the Dimension 7 of the universal standards. And as well, once you use the tool and you receive the report, the graphs, and so on, please, it's a free tool, please acknowledge then the resources, the tool itself, the work of the Green Inclusive and Climate Smart Finance Action Group. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate. You can reach out here or over the emails shared in the chat. More information on the license, copyright, terms of use is described below. And now if you have further interest, you can revise more on the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 that it has. Now, on the tool itself, and here on the training, you can also add your additional comments. And as you see, you have to fill it out completely if you want to receive your analysis, your results. You can click no. No, don't be afraid. If you don't do the activity, you can click no and then just leave it. And last thing for you, you can also print or save as PDF, revise with Calm the tool and the different options. Those that you haven't marked are in light gray, but you can save the PDF and then share with your colleagues, with your team, with your green or environmental committee at the institution. That's the exercise, a good practice to do, and then explore their results. Now see that I am over the time, but please, we have a last two questions for you. And please, if you can answer to this short poll so that we can have a quick feedback from your side and those keywords that you think are interesting to further explore. This can help us to also shape the activities that we will do next from the action group, and especially as well to continue enhancing the green index and the training sessions. And for your participation, for your questions, your comments that you had throughout the session today, thank you very much. I think this is what makes more valuable to participate and attending the sessions. Now, if not, I will be just talking with the screen and the PowerPoint presentation. But I think this is like discussing and talking with you is the greatest thing that we can have also as trainer. Yeah, thank you to you, Fanny. And after you fill out the poll and the question, we can close the session and say goodbye and wish you good luck and enjoy the next two sessions. It was a pleasure to be with you these first two ones. You can connect with me over LinkedIn or over email. And to those attending the Spanish ones, then we will continue the next weeks. Thank you to all. And yeah, good work for the next ones. You are welcome. And thanks, exactly. Thanks, I agree with Alan. Thanks for everyone to share your experience. I think if everyone is sharing what they are doing, it also inspires the others. And you can think this is possible. Yes, I can do that. You don't feel that you are the only ones. Yeah, Karen, I won't be next week, but we keep in touch. The next week would be with Davide Forcella. Wishing you a great week to all. Goodbye. And thank you, e-MFP, Fernando and Ligia, for the support. Goodbye to all. Greetings from Berlin.